We're going to get started today with our Membership Monday. This is the third installment of Membership Monday for District 7670 in the year of visionary leadership. And we have some wonderful guests for you today. We're going to be talking about club culture and how to change club culture. This is going to be a really great activity. It's a full program, so we're not going to delay much. I'm just going to cut right to the chase. I'm going to have District Membership Chair Philip Reed introduce our guests, and we can go ahead and get started because we got a lot of work to do today. Really happy to see all y'all here. Thanks for coming. Philip, yeah, I think you're still on mute if you're going to talk.
Incidentally, I apologize. Hear me now? Okay. We have two speakers today that are hard to get. We're lucky to have them. First, we have Terry Weaver. He's Assistant Rotary Coordinator for Zone 33, and he's an IT Administrator for Zones 33 and 34, past District Governor of District 7750, and is a member of the Rotary Club of Greenville, South Carolina. And he has won Rotary's two highest awards, Distinguished Service Award and Service Above Self Award. Following him will be Patrick Eakes. Patrick is the Zone 33 Rotary Coordinator, past District Governor of 7690, which is the Greensboro, North Carolina area. He's also winner of Rotary's two highest awards, Distinguished Service Award and Service Above Self Award. If they were here in person, I'd say, please help me give a warm Rotary welcome to these two speakers, but let's do that by paying attention, taking notes, and using the worksheet, if you printed them off, that they were kind enough to send us the link to. Take it away, Terry.
Thanks so much, Philip. We're here today to talk about changing club culture. And I'm starting today with an assumption that you've printed the recipe for changing club culture worksheet. You have it in front of you. And you'll be building a club culture change plan from this worksheet this evening. Now, I've been invited to speak about this topic that I believe may be our greatest challenge in Rotary. Every club has a culture, whether you like it or not. And I think it's our job as club leaders to move that culture one club at a time, 36,000 of them, from business as usual to business of the future. So I'm asking your indulgence today to understand that we're talking about strategies to change culture of any organization. Now, we'll be using examples about membership in the case of Rotary, because frankly, I think that's probably the area where most clubs need the most attention to cultural change. But I'm inviting you to expand your thinking to apply these lessons to any culture change challenge, whether it's your family, your church, your business, your community, or yes, perhaps your Rotary Club. Now, here's something I learned from traveling my district and from working with clubs now in dozens of other districts, including yours, for over 5 years. I've learned there are two things Rotarians don't like. Things that just really grind them to the core. The first of which is the way things are. I don't like the speakers. I don't like the meals. I don't like the meeting location. I don't like the president. You've heard all this. But the thing they really hate, the thing that really tears them up, is when something changes. So you'll have good ideas, I hope, from today's session. And you've probably had good ideas from district assemblies and pets and pre-pets and foundation events and so forth. But you know, the question is, how do I take this back to my club? And think about the last time you popped a new idea on the table in front of your board. If you're like me, you probably got hammered by the elder naysayers. So today, we're going to spend some time learning a playbook of organizational culture change skills. And we'll be using membership as an example, but this session isn't about membership. It's about using chronic membership decline as an example of a culture of failure that has to be changed in more than half of the Rotary clubs in your district. Yes, half of the Rotary clubs in your district have an ingrained, long-standing culture of membership decline, and it's by and large the same clubs year to year. So it's my hope that this skill set becomes part of your Why I Stay in Rotary list, that this will provide some value added to your Rotary membership, and that you'll take away some ideas you can use all kinds of other places. I use these ideas in my business, my clients' businesses, my life, my family, even in conversations with my spouse. So let's talk about the situation that most change agents find themselves in. First of all, everybody's completely happy with the status quo. Low expectations, everybody's okay with a net decline of a couple of members a year, and nobody sees any kind of a problem with that. You're thinking, I'm all by myself, nobody else gets it. And the fact is that your members will be pushing back. If you're trying to make a change in the club, humans are really allergic to any kind of change. They love the status quo, and they'll go to considerable effort to defend the status quo, making whatever excuses are necessary to try to get you drawn off your mark. So the first part of the situation is you need to decide whether or not you want to be a change agent. This isn't for everybody. And recognize that if we keep doing what we're doing, we'll get more of what we got. We'll have more of the same results if we keep hammering our head against the same strategies and against the same schemes that haven't worked before. So our intention today is to walk through some exercises on how to change club culture, particularly with respect to membership growth and retention. Here's the problem. Culture can't be changed directly. What you have to do to change culture is first change strategies. Change strategies from the ones that haven't been working to some that are more likely to get the results we want, preferably some proven strategies. Second, then you change behaviors. You get people to behave according to those new strategies and hopefully also accomplish some short-term wins. We'll talk about this as a part of this cultural change process. And then reinforce those new strategies, reinforce those short-term wins, and behaviors and culture will follow. It's like changing a habit. You have to practice what you wish was the new habit for days on end until it becomes part of your routine and becomes a new habit. Culture is no different. Now, I didn't think all this stuff up. These ideas were all drawn from one of the best known books on organizational culture change by John Kotter. He's a Harvard Business School professor and one of the best known experts in the world on leading organizational change. So Kotter has a formula for this. It's actually 9 steps. And first in the book, I would encourage you to pick up the book. He talks about what gets in the way, and then we'll jump right into what his prescriptions are, his recipe for changing these club cultures. And the first is to reset the bar. Reset the bar by redefining what good is. And in our case, good is not holding our own. Good is not a steady bleed of 1 or 2 members a year, which is the dominant model of most Rotary clubs. Rotary clubs can simply shake off the loss of 1 or 2 members a year. They excuse themselves from that, and then next year it's lather, rinse, repeat, and we're down another 1 or 2. Kotter suggests, if necessary, create a crisis. And in at least half of your clubs, there's no need to create a crisis. You already got one. The thing is that the membership probably doesn't know about it. And remind everybody that if we keep doing what we're doing, we'll probably get more of what we've got. And it's not good enough. We've redefined what good is to consistent, moderate membership growth. Now, by that, I mean growth in the 5 to 10% range, 5 to 10% annual. So for a 40-member club, that means just growth of a couple members a year. You go from 40 to 42 to 44, and sooner or later you're at 50. You become a little bit bigger Rotary Club. Nothing flashy, but it's consistent and it's something within the boundaries that you can keep up with. We're not ever encouraging somebody to go out and add 10 members to their Rotary Club in a year. That usually is not very effective. So making this an urgent priority, that's the name of this game. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to go to page 2 of your worksheet. And what we're going to do is redefine the bar, redefine the new bar. What does good look like in your Rotary Club? Now, I'd invite you to make those notes on your worksheet, but also, if you would, please share those newly defined measures of good with us in the chat. Let us know what good looks like in your Rotary Club. Now, good, of course, will not be something that's a strategy. It won't be something that is described as the problem. Good is a redefinition of a metric of what good is. Give you a minute or so to work on those, and then Patrick Eakes is going to join me in helping us walk through some of those ideas from your worksheets. So be prepared to share those with Patrick.
So this is your chance to redefine what good is, what success is in your club. I see a new project, 2 new people before the calendar year end. Increased retention, 5 to 10% growth. These are discernible measures of what good is. Member engagement, I see it a couple of times. You want to be really, really clear about what good is so that it's something that can be communicated to your members. Highlands Mountaintop, if you can retain every single member and add one for every existing member, we will create an award for you. I like it. It's aggressive. Okay, so we're going to move on to number 2 in this recipe. You can certainly get your notes made there about what good looks like in terms of resetting the bar on your worksheet. Number 2 is an assessment. Okay, so you have to figure out exactly where your club stands, and that involves taking an honest and frankly a sober look at your club situation, whatever that may be. Now you see on there the club health check. That is a tool that Rotary provides that is one of the better ones that they provide that gives you an opportunity to take an objective look at your club using that standardized health check. You might think of it as something similar to your annual physical. The only difference is, in this case, we want you to listen to the doctor when he or she tells you to lose weight or whatever it may be. But you see the link for the club health check. Terry's made that really easy for you by using a tiny URL. So all you have to remember is the Rotary health check to be able to find that. You can also Google it and you'll be able to find it. So this is a great way to be able to assess where your club is, evaluate where you are, and the areas where your club may need to do a little bit of work. So turning to your worksheet again, right below the resetting the bar, jot down some notes on what your assessment plan will be. One of them might be using this Rotary Club health check. Might be a club assembly where you have someone facilitate a discussion among your members, or a brainstorming session. Member surveys. But go ahead and write down what your assessment plan is. Because what we're doing here is we're building the plan for your club to create this positive culture change. I'm going to give you a minute to do that. Looks like some of you know about that health check. All right, so continue to make those notes so that you'll have this to refer back to. Step 3, if you made me pick the most important step out of all of this, I think step 3 might be it, and that's to create a coalition. You want to find those people in your club who see things the way that you do and will support you in leading this change in club culture. You need to build an influential team who will support your vision. And this is really critical. It's you heard what Terry said before about Rotarians not liking change. Past president of my club, to make the point, he reminded us all, he said, the only people in this world who like change are babies with dirty diapers. And I think he's probably right. So leading this it's going to be a team sport. So you want to build a team, you want to build a coalition. So think about who's going to be in your coalition and write that down on your worksheet. Who's going to support you? Who is going to be maybe an informal leader in your club, one that doesn't carry a particular title, but is influential. I'm not going to ask you to report these names out. Okay? Don't put those in the chat. Somebody here might be taking notes, but do write them down on your worksheet. And again, I think this is, for my money, is the most critical step here. So be thoughtful about who you're going to build this, who's going to be a part of this coalition. This is going to be the group you're going to rely on to help implement your vision. Okay, so as you write down who those coalition members are going to be to help carry out this vision, I'm going to turn it back over to Terry to talk about the vision.
Terry, you're on mute.
Thank you. These may be equals in terms of importance in this process. Creating a vision is essential to the coalition process, and you can actually use your coalition in the vision development. But a vision is a future different from the past. I see our Rotary Club doing something different in the future than we've done in the past. Give your members something to believe in. People want to believe in something. And, you know, we've just gone through an election cycle, and, you know, elections are all about vision. Elections are run on vision. Now, many of them perhaps undeliverable, but nevertheless, the entire proposition of a campaign is, here's my vision for the future, vote for me, and I'll do my best to make it that way. Cotter points out that you don't want to underestimate the power of the vision, and you don't want to underestimate the vacuum that exists if there isn't one. So here are some characteristics of an effective vision. Again, Cotter's words, that it's an imaginable picture of the future, almost a word picture. It's desirable. It's something that the stakeholders could see themselves having a long-term interest in. And it's feasible, realistic, and attainable goals. Again, consistent, moderate membership growth, net growth of a couple members a year, which of course, attrition is real. That's going to take in a 40-member club, 8 members or so to have a net growth of 2. That it's focused, that it guides the decision-making process. And of course, allows some initiative. There's enough flexibility in there that people can make their own way out of this. And finally, that it's easily communicable, that it can be successfully explained inside 5 minutes. Now, some of you know that when I'm not doing Rotary or the grandkids, I have a little encore career doing coaching of small businesses. And occasionally a business owner asks me to help them with, say, an incentive compensation plan. You know, you do this, I'll pay you that. And one of the elements of a successful incentive compensation plan, I believe, is the 1 martini rule, meaning that the plan is simple enough that the employee can explain it to the spouse over no more than one martini. And the same would be true of a vision, the one martini rule. Here's an idea of a vision from the corporate world. And let me walk through this one with you. Our goal is to reduce our mean time to repair parameters so they're perceptually lower than all major competitors inside the United States and out. In a similar vein, we have targeted new product development cycle times, order process times, and other customer relevant processes for change. Whoa, I can see that just rolling off the tongue of every employee out on the floor. What about something like this? We're going to become faster than anyone in our industry at satisfying customer needs. That's something that could stick. I once worked for a Fortune 500 company, and the entire vision was also the tagline, and that was excellence in customer satisfaction. We had a customer satisfaction hotline. If someone had a problem with one of the systems that we installed or one of the products that we provided, they could call an 800 number and be on the phone with the CEO that same morning or afternoon. And of course, when one of those came in, it rattled a lot of cages down the line. But that's what vision is all about. Here's one of my personal favorite visions of all time. I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to Earth. John Kennedy delivered this vision to a joint session of Congress. And of course, Congress voted for the funding required to form up the rest of NASA. It was already underway. It was formed out of what used to be known as the Jet Propulsion Lab. But this is a simple vision, one sentence, and described a $1 billion project of countless man-centuries of work in one sentence, brilliantly crafted. Or he could have said something like this. Our mission is to become the international leader in the space industry through maximum team-centered innovation and strategically targeted aerospace initiatives. I can't really imagine the American people jumping in behind that one. So the nature of the vision statement really is everything. First of all, that the vision falls under those vision criteria, that it's desirable, it's something people want to get behind, but also that is simply enough stated. And it's stated in terms of the future world. There wasn't any conversation by Kennedy about the Russians. There wasn't any conversation by Kennedy about the problems or the challenges of getting to the moon. Simply, here's what we're going to do. Here's a vision that you might consider for a Rotary Club. Our Rotary Club will continue its legacy of community service, utilizing our influential membership to assist agencies in our community to achieve their missions. I don't know if anybody'd go for that. We work ourselves half to death on 2 or 3 fundraisers a year, and then we write some checks to some other organizations to fund their projects and their brands. It doesn't sound compelling to me, although I know some Rotary Clubs that this must be the mission thereof. How about this? Our Rotary Club will be the growing, effective, vibrant force in our community, making it a better place to live. And notice how that squares up with Rotary's new vision. Together, we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. Vision statement that pretty much says it all in one sentence. And you'll notice in a vision statement, folks, there's no statement of what a problem was that we're trying to fix. There's no statement of how we're going to get there. Take all that stuff out of your vision and make it a statement of what your club is going to look like in the future. And actually, a hint is that if you start a vision like this one with I see or we see, everything else pretty much follows on from there. So turn to page 4. The answers are in the back of the book. Here is a page of some vision ideas that you're welcome to borrow or make your own up from scratch. So what I'd like you to do is take your vision, fill it in that section of your worksheet. You can turn to the examples on page 4 for a little crib sheet. Start with I see, and let's take a couple minutes to craft a quick vision statement for our club, relating to, of course, what you said you wanted to accomplish as your change management objective. Again, this will work best if you start with I see and then describe in a word picture, what my club is going to look like in the future. And if you would, finger those into the chat. Let's take a look at a couple of these. Who has a vision they can share with us? Just hold down your space bar, unmute yourself, and tell us your vision for your club. Don't be bashful. We've got some time to wait. Who has a vision you're willing to share?
Madison County Rotary is in a small community. I want everybody in the community to know who we are. I feel they don't understand what Rotary is, so how could they want to become members if they don't know enough about it?
So how would that sound if you started it with I see? I see our Rotary Club.
I see everyone in our community understanding the vastness of Rotary.
Great, great. Here's one in the chat. I see our club as the preferred Rotary Club in Western North Carolina with regard to services provided to our community. I see the Rotary Club of Asheville improving quality of life in our local and world community by fostering service above self, promoting business and personal integrity, engaging in fellowship, and supporting programs and projects. Okay, this is a vision and several strategies linked together. If you stopped with, I see the Rotary Club of Asheville improving quality of life in our local and world community, be a lot tighter and more easily communicated vision. You can, of course, do it all those ways. Somebody else have a vision they're willing to share with us?
I'll give it a shot. And I'm new to the club. I see newcomers in our community making lasting friendships in our club as we inspire each other to serve Polk County.
Thank you. Okay, so you're getting the idea of this. Let's move on to the next step in this recipe. Now, there's a reason we call this a recipe. Like any recipe, if you substitute things, you may not get the desired result. If you skip steps, you may not get the desired result. So this is step number 5. We've created a coalition of like-minded people that we know are going to support us. We've included them in crafting a vision statement that's crisp, concise, and desirable. Now we need to build a script. And let's use this acronym SPIN. Now, this is, again, something I didn't invent. Borrowed this from a book as well. S stands for situation. Just explaining the current facts. Explaining current facts that are really not arguable. You know, we can have different opinions, but we can't have different facts. The problem, that's the P. The problem with that is, and that's probably a pretty good way to segue your conversation into that next section, which is the problem with that is. The implication. Now, the term implication is not obvious to everyone, so you can start that section with "that means." And then the need. And the need, of course, is essentially a restatement of your vision of where you'd like to go with this. So let's look at some examples from a Rotary Club. Here's the situation. Our club has been on a steady downward path, steady downward membership trend, losing an average of 2 members per year for the past 5 years. The problem with that is the club's learned to accept membership decline as a natural occurrence and has forgotten that growth, not attrition, is the goal. The implication: if we stay on this track, we're going to find ourselves with steadily smaller meetings and potential members asking, is this really a group I want to be part of? They said this was Rotary International. Where is everybody? Once we lose the ability to attract members, it's only a matter of time until we all age out together and the club goes out of business. All we'll have to decide is who's going to turn the lights out. So what I believe we need to do is help the members understand that growing the club is essential to our survival. Remember that part about create a crisis? Growing the club is essential to our survival, not success, survival. This we're down to a gotta do. We need to help them understand that attracting more members is in everyone's best interest, including the new members. This Rotary is a pretty good thing. Why don't we invite some people to be part of it? And we need to provide a compelling vision of a growing, vibrant club and inspire them to make it that way. So that's a classic spin example. The situation is we've had steady declining membership. The problem with that is we are on a glide path to go out of business. The implication is if we don't fix this, it's going to be lights out. So what we need to do is we need to attract some members and, of course, continue to retain the members that we have. So what I'd like you to do on page 3 is put together your spin script. Put together first the situation, the current fact. Again, this will be 1 or 2 sentences, just like the examples you saw. What is the situation in your club that you believe needs to be fixed? Give you about a minute to tune up your situations, and then we'll just report these out in person. Use your space bar to unmute. Who's got a succinct description of a situation that needs fixing in your club? Yes.
All right. So I wrote, put my glasses on. Our club is the oldest club in Western North Carolina, filled with business leaders and influencers. The problem with that, now the second part, our members invite people in their circles to the club, and it has become a place that is only relevant and inviting to people who look and speak and pray and spend just like we do. What we need to do is change how we do everything, from where and how we meet to who we invite and how we make our space inviting. The last question, the N, that's what we need to do, I guess. Yeah. So I think I finished.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much. Nicely done. Someone else. Situation. Or if you move that far, go ahead and fill us in on a situation and problem statement. Then we can work on the rest.
I've got one.
Okay.
Too few members are bringing in new members. more members need to recruit. That means we need to make more recruiters.
Okay, and what would the problem statement in that be?
Too few members are bringing in new members.
Okay. So the situation would be perhaps the small number of a metric, the small number of members who are actually bringing new members into the club, right?
Yes, sir.
Great. Okay, someone else?
Yes, Steve with the Denver Lake Norman Club. I think the situation is the dealing with the coronavirus. We're doing all of our meetings in Zoom. The problem is that it seems like now we're at a point where each week we're dropping a few. We started out with having 57, 55. Now we're down to roughly about 40 something. So the problem is we're losing members participating.
Okay.
Of course, that means to me that we need to change our meetings to make them more interesting. Therefore, we need to come up with a whole new agenda to use each week.
Brilliant. That's exactly what we're looking for. Somebody else?
I have one.
Sure.
Okay, our situation is that I think our people have just become virtual tired out. This is Susan Denny from Black Mountain.
Thank you.
We started out with a pretty good attendance at virtual meetings, and it's gotten fewer and fewer each week. The implication is that we are dwindling, and we need to, I'm not sure what we need to do. We've decided as a board that we need to just stop for a while. Suspend and start over in the spring with some kind of a re-happening Rotary, just, you know, have a big celebration or something. And a little bit of the background on that was we had just in January and February made the decision as a club that we were going to totally change the way we did our meetings because we were dwindling. So we decided then that we were going to go to evening meetings. We were going to meet as a club every other week and have people work on their service projects in between and then come back and talk about them. And people were pretty excited about that. But the week we were supposed to get started, the COVID thing went into effect. So we stopped doing what we used to do. We were trying to do something new, and we ended up just doing online, and it's just not working. It's not holding us together.
Well, this wasn't intended as a problem-solving session, and I don't want to get off track on this,
Right.
but I seriously implore you to rethink the idea of mothballing your Rotary Club until the spring. You perhaps fewer meetings per month and find some COVID-compatible service projects, things your members can do in this COVID environment. And there are several. Check with your assistant governor and check with your district community service chair, just as an idea.
Okay.
That's just.
This is Eileen. I just want to add to what Susan said. We are not suspending service projects. We are continuing to do our service projects. We continue to report on them in board meetings. What we have opted to do is to suspend the now bi-weekly meetings of everyone because nobody's coming to them virtually. Our club demographics are a big part of that. So I don't want you to think this club is suspended. That's not what Susan and the board has decided to do. They're suspending the actual meeting, but not the service projects.
Okay, someone else have a spin script to share with us?
Assholes.
Yeah. I think this is just a way of looking at your problems.
One more. Tim?
I don't really know what to say because we're not having those problems. Our problem is we are outgrowing our meeting space again, and that's a big problem in our small community because there's only maybe possibly one other place we could move to.
Okay.
My comments to some of the ones that I'm listening to, we will by the next week have brought in 14 new members. And we've lost some. We had a death of our longest member, 63 years, about 2 weeks ago. But we had to make ourselves attractive to folks. And we are offering a combo, a real meeting place as well as Zoom. And we're having folks come to the Zoom as well as to our meeting place. And the energy, as Ken Nicholson can share, is just has really made us attractive to people that didn't know what the Rotary Club of Murphy was all about for 20 years.
Hope everybody's making notes. Tim, that's great news. And my club, like yours, is continuing to attract members. Patrick's made the point more than once that people have joined his Rotary Club that have never been to a Rotary meeting in person. And it troubles me that clubs seem to be just kind of vapor locked. There are things that we can do in this environment to attract people to Rotary. So let's move on to the next element of this recipe, and that'll be explained by Patrick Eakes.
Thank you, Terry. So we've talked about resetting the bar, making an honest assessment, building a coalition, creating a vision, and then building a spin script. So now it's time to teach your members. You have to teach them how to grow your club, with maybe the exception of Tim, who apparently has got that one already licked. But most of us, we have to teach our members how to grow the club. They don't know how. If they did, you'd already be growing, right? So now what we want to do is put what you have learned over the last little bit into practice. Remembering that the key to success is that the club experience, the experience people have in your club, and the attractiveness of the club is what adds up to create an irresistible club. So I want you to turn to your worksheets and write down the strategies that you will take to implement what we've been talking about, and the behaviors that will support these strategies, and your plan on how you're going to reinforce those behaviors to create the culture. Now, I'll go through that again, and you've got it on your screen. Think about and write down the strategies, intentional strategies, not just we'll see what happens, but very intentional strategies, behaviors to support those strategies, and your plan to reinforce those behaviors so that you build a culture in doing that. All of this geared toward how we're going to change our culture and achieve that new definition of good. So you might, for instance, teach your members how to talk about Rotary. You might even teach them the SPIN method, the SPINN. But write down what those intentional strategies are going to be to build this culture of membership growth. And you can add those in the chat as well to share your good ideas. Some of you are familiar with Discover Rotary hours, or Rotary information hours, sometimes they're called. That might be a strategy. But it's important to put these on paper. The only way the intentional strategies will get carried out is if you're clear about them, you have them written, and then we're going to talk about communication so that everybody else understands. I see this person, Terry Weaver. I'm not sure who he is. Suggests a club assembly focused on our individual answers to what's Rotary. I mean, I bet you've been asked before, what's Rotary? And if you haven't thought about your answer, you might stumble over that. So you want all of your members to be prepared to be able to succinctly talk about what's Rotary. Might be different answers for different members. Implementing a strategic plan. Good that you have one. Recruit committee chairs who believe in the plan. There's your coalition. Hold the chairs accountable. Always a good idea. I see the Rotary elevator speech. That's what I'm talking about. What's Rotary? Somebody once said to me, Rotary is scouting for adults. And I thought that's about as succinct as it gets. Anybody else want to add to the chat? Okay, I hope you have got that part of your plan written down. Next, we're going to talk about communication. Communication is an essential part of leadership. It is hard to be an effective leader without being an effective communicator. And it's going to take more communication than you might anticipate. All the ways that you can communicate, it's important to reinforce the message that will bring you the change in culture, a growth culture when it comes to membership. So I'm talking about face-to-face, one-on-one kinds of meetings, not just face-to-face on computers, the way we do it now, but face-to-face, one-on-one, phone calls, print, you write a newsletter article, emails, from the podium in a club meeting, all of these ways that you communicate, you got to just communicate, keep the message going, repeat it, be sure that people hear it and they read it and they feel it multiple times. It takes a lot to get through a skull as thick as mine. The message has to be repeated and reinforced. You can use the spin script to do that. That's a skill you've learned now, that SPIN. You can use that spin script to craft your communication plan. Now, I'd like you to write down your communication plan, which is on page 3 of your worksheet, right in the middle of the page. It's going to be important that you have a coordinated communication plan, one that reinforces the message all year. When I was president in 2001, 2002, when Rick King was the international president, somebody Harry knows, he, yes, he does. Rick King hit us every week on the membership topic. And from the podium, in my individual discussions, all the ways that I could communicate with my club, I talked about membership and the importance of membership. And frankly, it was heard, and we transformed the club both in terms of growth and diversity that year, 2 very important parts of membership. So please go ahead and report out parts of your communication plan, how you're going to communicate to your club effectively. You can report that out in the chat. And I would refer back to Phil and Barbara Shepherd, developing a good Rotary elevator speech, helping your members do that. And being prepared for it yourself is certainly part of the communication. But how are you going to communicate out this need for culture change preferably using your spin script.
If I may,
You may.
just at one point, I guess we at the Rotary Club of Asheville got a little worried because numbers dipped below 150. And I think we're heading towards 140. And we'd always lost a lot of people, but we'd always gotten a lot of people too. So we decided to go whole hog on the increased membership drive. And it got to the point where we had to ask the membership committee to pump the brakes because in our meetings, it was like we were selling a pyramid scheme. It just got really, really uncomfortable. We would bring guests to meetings and all we talk about is, you need to ask more people. We should have 3 people per. And so here my guest is there to see what Rotary's about. And it seems like Rotary is just about getting more members. And that was really not helpful. And this year as president, a lot of my plans had to go out the window. But what I really felt like saying is when people are happy in their Rotary Club, when the programs are good and the service projects are plenty and there's, interesting people around the table, people you're not in contact with every day, you're going to want other people to be there and they're going to see that. And we don't need to, during meetings, hammer in, if you've got your members, make sure they come, if you've got guests today, we want to see them again next week. We want to, this was just really hard sell.
So Sophia, when you have I think you said you're from Asheville. When you have a great meal in Asheville, what do you do?
Say that again?
When you have a great meal, you talk to your friends about it, right?
Right.
You tell them about it. You're happy with what happened. That's when we're talking about it. When we're talking about attracting members, we're talking about that very specifically and not recruiting members.
Right. So I'm saying in the meeting itself, you get on this dangerous script when you start really pushing how hard you're trying to gain members during the meeting. That's
okay. So there's your culture change right there that you want to implement, correct? You want to create an attractive club. You want to create an irresistible club. You want to create a great member experience without necessarily taking out billboards saying, please come to our club. Right? Yeah. I hear what you're saying. So that sounds like it's going to be an integral part of the culture change that you want to create.
And you'll notice that only one of these suggested items has anything to do with the meeting. Most of it is direct communication with the members.
Amen. We had DG David had a fellow by the name of Audley Knight, I believe is correct. If you know him, and he's a real expert on membership. One of the things that struck me about it, he says, many members leave because they have unmet expectations. So when they join Rotary, we bring new people on board, we spin them up, we get them all excited, and then not much happens to follow through either. And that's really important for this communication aspect, reminding them. And also, we haven't talked much about that. We are part of a greater whole. And so we have some mission to fulfill as part of. I'm a 30-year military guy, so I think you have to integrate all the parts together. But the action happens at the club level, but it supports a much larger organization. And outside the United States, is my impression is that they don't have quite the same problem that we have here. The attrition rate is higher in the US than it is in other places. So that says we're not communicating enough, to me, is my takeaway from his presentation. I don't know if DG David would say that's being fair to him, but I think it is. Anyhow, that's my 2 cents worth.
And I will tell you that Terry and I have a 5-week series on membership that we can bring to you. This is one piece that we do about the culture change, but many of the points you make are things that we would address in a broader kind of forum. Okay, well, let's move on to step 8, which is confrontation. Now, I'm from the South. Most of you, you're all in the South. Many of you are probably from the South, and in the South, we don't confront. We beat around the bush. We eventually get to where we're going, but we think of confrontation as, in a negative light. But confrontation may be part of what's required, and that's why it's listed in this recipe. You can have members who are in the way of the vision that you're trying to implement. So your coalition can be a big part of that in trying to deal with folks who are in the way, but you may have to deal with folks who are in the way. And I bet that one or more of you have worked in a toxic workplace or had a toxic employee, somebody that had to be dealt with. That you hope that you can overcome them or win them over, I should say, on the merits of the vision that you're bringing to the club or the change that you're leading. And if that's not possible, you hope you can neutralize them by at least saying, will you at least step aside and give me the opportunity to implement and to lead this change in our club? That's option A and option B. Option C, and sometimes is required, is to remove a member. And I say this not because we're trying to run off anybody, but because your responsibility as the leader is to your club, is to the organization that you lead, and not to that individual member. So if you have done all these things, you've built the coalition, you're communicating effectively, you've taught your club, and you have someone who just wants to oppose you at every turn, you need to be ready for that confrontation, which again, hopefully you'll be able to win them over. But want you to be aware of that. Now, I'd like you on your sheets, toward the bottom of page 3, to write down who or maybe what those obstacles may be in your club. Again, I will ask you not to report this to the chat. We don't really need to list those obstacles out there, but you're probably going to have some obstacles to implementing this culture change. So go ahead and acknowledge that, write those down on your sheet. And while you're doing that, we'll move to step 9, which is to set up some short-term wins. You want to build some momentum for what you're leading, for the change you're leading here. So that may be as simple as you line up a couple of members who you know are going to come into your club, and you do that before you launch this recipe, this culture change process, and then they come in as part of evidence that this plan is off to a good start. Builds momentum with what you're doing. That's just one example, but you want to set up some short-term wins so that your club sees that what you are leading is making sense. It gives you a proof of concept, if you will. So you've got a little space there to write down what you might do for a short-term win. You go ahead and add that as well. And we'll go to our last slide, which is our takeaways for today. So we're resetting the bar. It's important to be able to define, or in this case, redefine what good is. Number 2, an assessment. You have to take an honest look. This is where we are. This is where our club is. Create the coalition that's going to help you implement your vision. That's 3 and 4. Absolutely essential. Build the spin script. Terry's right. I use this spin method. I've got 2 teenagers at home. Okay, so sometimes I have to break it down this way to get through it and not get myself in trouble. But the spin script is an effective communication tool in lots of different ways. Teach the behaviors that you want from your club. You want to model them and explicitly teach them. Communicate, communicate, communicate. And when you get done with that, communicate some more. Confront those that are in the way. Might be people, might be something else that's in the way, but be prepared to deal with that and not assume it's going to go away on its own. And then your short-term wins. That's really important to building the momentum, to showing that you're on the right track. And while you're doing all this, keep your eye on the ultimate goal here, which is creating a growth culture. Terry said it before, many clubs have a threshold of pain which they can withstand, which is to lose a couple of members a year. And as you can imagine, those losses mount. We can document clubs all over North Carolina, your district, my district, all over our zone, where clubs have just slowly trickled from 40 to 25 or from 20 to 12. And now they're really in serious jeopardy of going out of business. So we appreciate your attention, your participation, being with us this last hour. Our goal was to give you a cookbook that you could follow, and hopefully you've made your notes to develop your plan to implement this culture change. And I can tell you, we have multiple success stories of clubs that have had dramatic turnarounds by just right down the line implementing 1 through 9, and had incredible changes and are off to the races. So I'm going to turn it over. I think I'm actually a minute late. I'm going to turn it over to Philip Reed. And again, thank you for being with us today.
Terry, Patrick, thank you very much. You could tell from the information you got from the clubs, we're all in various stages of knowing what stage we need to, step up to, but all of us could stand in this COVID-19 era, having a plan, like you said, an intentional steps and working those steps. So thank you both for your time. DG David?
Well, I just want to thank everybody. Thank you, District Membership Chair Philip, for your hard work on putting this together today. And I want to thank Terry Weaver and Patrick Eakes. That was a great presentation. And thanks to all the attendees today. I think I love these types of these programs where we actually get down to work, put pencil to paper and make something happen. This is where this is where the real work of Rotary can happen. This is the greatest kind of training I think you can possibly have in Rotary, and stuff we can use in our personal lives, our business lives, and our Rotary lives. But anyway, I really appreciate your time today. Thanks. And our next Membership Monday will be in January, where I think we're going to take December off and be with our families, and go to that let balance of that time go to what you would have it. But the next Membership Monday will be coming up in January, and DMC Philip will be communicating with you on that. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you.